Welcome back to the Brave Podcast. My name is Angelo, aka Exploring with Angelo here on YouTube. And normally I'm out there hunting ghosts, going off into the creepy woods, often very, very late at night. Here, on the other hand, we talk about all sorts of things. So I'm actually here with a friend of mine. I think we've known each other. How long have we known each other now?
Almost 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
Damn.
quite some time.
Damn. So we actually met at what is our local hangout. I won't even say the name of the place, but yeah, we've been going there for coffees and food. And all sorts of things. And we often talk about some of the most random stuff you can possibly think of.
Pretty much, yeah. Whatever the deal is today.
Yeah, whatever's going on that day. Most of the time, it's kind of talking about how sad Trudeau is and Canada is in general, which we will get into probably in a different segment. But yeah, welcome to the studio. We decided to bust open a glass of bourbon. Try it out. Tell me what you think.
That's
good.
Really nice. Smooth.
Aged 10 years. Yeah. So recently I've become like a little bit infatuated with bourbon. So every time I go to the States, I buy 1 or 2 bottles and then bring them back. And then sometimes 1 bottle's already gone by the time I get back. But what are you gonna do? It's cheap over there. It's so good. And we also got a couple other special guests. They're 2 puppies, Olive and Feta, and they're just kind of doing their own thing off in the corner, and it's really funny. So you might hear a dog once in a while, and you might see the back curtain get pulled, or maybe a camera might go flying, but we'll adjust as we go through. But just so you guys know, in case you hear barking or things are moving around by themselves, it's not a ghost. Although I do think there is a ghost in here. Every so often, the motion camera in here will go off on its own, and I'll get the notification because it's ring, and I look and there's nothing. So there have been times. What do you guys do?
It's picking up something, eh?
Huh?
It's probably picking something up.
It's picking up something. Something is sometimes when, like, because those top curtains over there, because there's those little windows. Yeah. So when Moshe did that, he did it wrong. I think he actually fixed it. I don't know. I can't tell if he fixed it or not. I think originally the way he put them, he must have come back and fixed those because I don't remember those being like that. But the way he did the adhesives, he put them like on the metal. Okay. So when it started getting too hot or too cold, they would just fall off. And then bright light would be shining through. And I think that was triggering the camera.
Sensor,
Yeah. I'm like, what the hell? So every time I would look, I'm like, why? Or this light would turn on its own. Oftentimes I'm out of the country and I look and I could just see like a big ball of light shining through the curtain. I'm like, what is that? But yeah, so tell us what you're all about. Tell the audience what you do or what you've done.
Well, basically, just mostly I've been in the restaurant industry, growing up in it, being Greek background. So my dad's training. Now I've owned a couple of franchises, Wimpy's Diner, Egg Smart, and now I'm kind of veering into something new, which is what we always talk about at the coffee shop that we always hang out, the olive oil business. Yeah.
Tell us about that. I've always been kind of curious about stuff like that because you're learning about like imports, right?
Yeah. So it's more like about the quality of the olive oil because what you find in the regular grocery stores is like
garbage.
Yeah, it's pretty garbage. Yeah.
In my opinion,
it is garbage because what they're doing is it's blended, right? So they don't have a symbol. Most stores, like what they call, like for instance, in the European Union, they have the PDO,
right?
Meaning like protected designation of origin.
Okay.
Or what like Italy has is called a DOP. Okay. Right, which is a similar idea. And what it's doing is that protects where you're bringing the olive oil from. So the consumer, when they're purchasing it and they see that symbol on the actual bottle or the tin, that that
certifies that that's exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah, and that's what you're getting.
Yeah.
So in the grocery store, you can go in and they've blended it with probably like it could be like 6 different types of olive oils, and they're not at the same quality level because what they're looking for is a certain flavor, like certain brands that are more popular. They'll blend it with more of their brands of olive oils. But then there's other olive oils that are not even pure olive oil, and they're blending it with seed oils, which seed oils are not really as good for you.
Right.
and it's not what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing recently that I've been trying to like kind of avoid is seed oils. And the problem is that it's in everything.
Pretty much,
Like
yeah.
all processed. Like you can't even buy mayo or mayonnaise that doesn't have canola oil, which
That's
is
true.
so annoying. And I went to the grocery store yesterday because so I live with my mom and my grandmother, and my mom has a habit of buying half the fat mayo for some reason, which means that if it's half the fat, wouldn't that mean that they're substituting it with something else?
They're always substituting with something different.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when they say half the fat or
Low fat
or low sodium,
Yeah.
they're actually they've got to replace it with something else. But they don't tell people
Right.
that's not, and a lot of times that's not good for you.
And that's
Right.
what I'm trying to like tell my mom.
Yeah.
So I went grocery shopping, bought like, just a few things, some cheddar and bacon and whatever. And then I bought regular mayonnaise, which it's still not that healthy, but at least it's better than the half the fat, and it tastes better in my opinion.
Well, actually, the only one that I know is, and I'm not 100% what kind of olive oil they're using, but Hellman's has the olive oil based one. So
It's actually, they have one that's olive oil based.
yeah, it's olive oil based.
I haven't
with
seen
olive
that
oil.
one. The only one the one that I bought yesterday for sure has canola because it's on the ingredients list. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
but
unfortunately,
it kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
But so the a lot of people don't know that I owned a restaurant, but we were partners. That was
correct,
a very
yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it, in a way, kind of failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
For not really, it wasn't really our fault. It was more so, unfortunately, we just picked like probably the worst location in all of Toronto. We were convinced it was a good spot. It was a great deal at the time. Go figure, because it was not a good spot, but it is what it is. But I think we had a good idea. You came out of the restaurant business. You had the Egg Smart at the time, and then you were kind of ready to move on from that.
Correct. Yeah.
And we kind of you have a funny ghost story, which if you want to talk about that in a moment. But so basically our concept was, it was like what, Greek diner style foods and
kind of like a Greek Italian,
kind of,
So, because like there was a book back in the 70s, okay, because I know I'm a little bit older, and it's just that back in the 70s, there's a book. It's called Greece and Rome, Builders of the World.
Yeah.
And I kind of got that idea from that, just the name.
Right.
That's why I was like thinking to myself, that would really work. I think that if put together properly, you have the two really popular like foods in the world. You put them together in one restaurant. I think that would really, really work well. So it's kind of like a Greco-Roman.
I mean, the concept was there, and then honestly, if we had gone anywhere else, we probably would have done a lot better.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we were in an industrial area. We were kind of like surrounded by residential, but for some reason, people just didn't want to buy food. It didn't really make sense. I think it was because it was more of like a lower income neighborhood.
But you know what? It was also something at the time, like Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats were kind of just starting.
Yeah.
Right, when we were doing it, and if I think that if we kind of got onto that bandwagon, it may have helped. But
they really weren't like as big as they are now.
No,
like it's absolutely
not
kind
as
of
influential.
No, it's kind of like exploded, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so your ghost story, because we were talking about a couple of interesting ghost encounters. So you had one at your restaurant.
We're at the school where I'm actually.
No, but at Egg Smart. Remember the Egg Smart incident with the plate?
Oh yeah, with the plates that were falling.
Yeah. You guys were all. So I remember the story was kind of like, you and the other cook, you were separated or whatever.
Yeah,
and there was like, so they had these huge, massive dishes. They were like that porcelain, whatever, very heavy.
They were very heavy, yeah.
And it was on a perfectly flat counter.
Yes.
And you guys were spaced out, and the dish just went flying.
It literally was like, right off the top shelf.
Yeah.
It was a higher shelf, and it like came right off.
That's crazy.
It's not something that just can. It just doesn't like it was not like sitting teetering or anything.
Right,
it's just like
it's
it was
not
a solid
angle or anything.
it was a solid flat surface, and it just came right off. Yeah,
that's hilarious. Also kind of crazy because you guys were all there when it happened.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're all like looking at each other like,
like, well, did you do something? And then they said do something, and we're like, no, it wasn't me. And like, it was like really strange. Yeah.
So the reason why we think that might have happened was there was the two girls that were in the car accident, the two sisters.
Yeah, the two sisters.
Right?
They were on the corner. The story goes, They were on their way home. On their way to a birthday party, and they were going eastbound on Mayfield Road, and they were making the right turn. When they made the right turn, a big transport truck went through the red light and T-boned them, and they were killed instantly.
That's crazy.
And then, so for the last 30 years, both the father and the grandfather and the mother and the grandmother shows up at the restaurant every week, at least sometimes twice a week, and puts flowers.
Yeah.
And
they actually came in, like you spoke with them.
Yeah. Then they actually, it was the grandfather, because now this is like 20 some odd years past, and the grandfather would come in and he would say, "Hello, how are you?" Because he knew the previous owner, which was a Coffee Time, this guy George.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was really interesting.
Yeah. It was sad that happened, but that could have caused a haunting. And then what was the other thing? The radio would go on its own, or you would just leave the radio on? What was it?
No, the radio, like I would shut everything off at the end of the day, like everything shut down, radio, everything off, and I would come in sometimes and it would be on. It would actually, the radio would be on, just weird things like just like little. It didn't happen every day. It was just like something would be off.
Yeah. Didn't you start leaving the radio on at some point?
Afterwards, yeah.
You're like, well, clearly they want the radio on, so I'm just going to leave it on.
Yeah, so I just left it on. Yeah, afterwards, we just left it on. Yeah.
That's so funny. My gosh. Yeah, I was telling you my story about the at the, I think it was the Mill of Kintail. It's been a couple years since I've been there, but what sounded like, so I'll explain again because we were talking about it earlier, but there was 3 of us in the building. It was my friend Elliot, Mo, and myself, and that was it. Apart from the ghost. So it was a 3-level building. Elliot was on the main floor. Me and Mo were on the 2nd floor. We had just finished filming like part of our video, and we literally closed the cameras, turned everything off, when all of a sudden we heard what sounded like a basketball from the floor above us. And then we're like, shit, film. And then I think we caught like maybe the last half a second of the sound, and yeah, that was crazy. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, that is wild.
And then they're like, same thing, lights were going on and off on their own, like motion censored lights in the building while we were outside the building staring at it, because we were like filming, I think, B-roll shots or something. And then all of a sudden the light turned on, and Elliot's like, yeah, that'll happen. They pass right by the motion sensors and they turn everything on.
I think actually it must pick up on something, like even with like a soul or some type of entity of energy, it can still pick it up as it passes it.
Yeah. Well, in here I think things are happening more often because I have all these objects. Like I have those 2 dolls, that other thing over there, the camera we believe is haunted. There's a few other things, and then there's like the whole cabinet over there. So there's 2 bayonets. Those bayonets are World War I and World War II.
Oh, okay,
yeah. And I have like fossils. So those are like the oldest haunted objects you could possibly get.
They can actually bring in some of that energy. You know,
right?
What I mean? Like,
you never know. Who knows?
An attachment, right? You know, what I mean, like a spirit, somebody before when they were alive, it was something that meant a lot to them.
Yeah.
So,
So you're not really doing the restaurant now. Things have kind of changed. I mean, when we did it, I feel like I kind of learned a lot, things to do and things not to do, kind of thing.
Well, in the restaurant industry, it's changed over the years.
Right. What do you think of it now? Like, would it be worth for somebody to actually like start a restaurant? I mean, right now everything's kind of fucked up. So.
You know what? To be honest with you, like, it's so expensive with the rent. You'd have to be in more of a niche.
Right.
I wouldn't start off like a family restaurant, like your old style diner anymore, because they're all done. And the corporations basically, like, they have all those spots already. So you really can't compete.
Yeah.
Not for the price points anyways. As a chef, like putting something out really, really good, you'd have to be like on a downtown core or like somewhere with more like traffic, because if you come up like into the Brampton area or even some of the places in Mississauga, they're not the same as they used to be.
No.
A small restaurant costs you about $15,000 a month just in rent, like 1,000 square foot rent, like 1,000 square foot. Yeah, and like how do you end up making money? Like, because you want to put the prices at reasonable prices.
You'd have to have like a trend, right?
Correct.
You could find something that's like really trendy, but then hope that the trend never dies out, right?
Exactly. And you can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
Nobody can really guarantee that. Like you see some restaurants like they're like the old time restaurants, they're still going. The reason I can say that is because they're owning their own buildings. So in essence, the rent that they pay, they don't have to because they already own the building.
Yeah.
They don't have a mortgage.
That's really the only way you can get by.
Yeah, and that's how some of those restaurants that have been around for like 40, 50 years is because they actually own the building. So they don't have a landlord. Yes, they still have their property taxes and everything else, but the rent can really kill somebody too, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it makes it pretty challenging. Yeah, hearing about like some places how expensive their rent are is just insane. Brampton really has nothing. The other thing I find about Brampton now is there's nothing to rent, right? Like there's no areas for some odd reason. I don't know if it's just poor planning and management. I mean, what else is new? It's Brampton.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like, so I know my barber, for instance, was looking for a place for years.
Yeah.
And then he finally found something, and then somehow the deal kind of fell through because the owner was a jackass. He's like, oh, you could stay here for a year, and then my wife is going to need the building. And he's like, well, then why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because it's different on the restaurants, right? Like or commercial.
Yeah.
It's not like with like a residential. You know, once your lease is done, you know you can still live there.
Yeah.
Your landlord's not going to kick you out from living there. Where a commercial unit, when your lease is up, it's basically okay, pack up and go. Pretty much, yeah. And well, they'll usually give you 3 months or 6 months in advance that hey, you know what, we're taking the place back. But you really don't. You just built up a business. You spent. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, you really don't have much of a say.
No, you don't. And if you spent say 5 years building up a company, and then you got to move it, that's kind of hard.
Yeah. To me, it just kind of feels like everything here is falling apart. That's the problem.
Pretty much.
The healthcare system here has been in shambles. I mean, it's been like that for a while, but now it's like excessive. So my friend went last night with his wife, who's pregnant, and she was having issues, very drained, like on the verge of passing out. And they know what it is. She needs fluids. So they went to the hospital hoping that they can get some IV. They were in the waiting room for about 8 hours.
Yeah, that's too long.
That's way too long, right? Yeah. There's like, he was saying, he's like, there's tons of people here. Nobody's really doing anything. Apparently there was a lady who was like in so much pain because she had just had surgery. So she came back and I guess she was like asking for meds. Yeah. And she was in so much pain to the point where she's literally freaking out. And the security is like, if you don't shut the fuck up, I'm going to kick you out the door. Yeah. Like, what is going on? Right?
It's gotten so bad. My experience, I was at the hospital, say about 3 weeks ago, and my wife was doing a procedure, and I just went to the Tim Hortons right next to the right where the emergency ward is there, and there are people just waiting there in the hallways.
Yeah.
Like they've been there for hours and hours, and you know what? It's been like that for the last 5-6 years. Oh, there they go.
Yeah. Who's there?
They see the ghost. They're barking at the artifacts.
Somebody probably walked by. Hey, don't touch my cactus. So funny. But yeah, it's been pretty bad. Come here. Come. No?
Oh, they'll come.
They just think I'm playing.
Yeah they come.
They're so funny. But yeah, so they were waiting 8 hours, and they finally got called in. They gave her the IV, and then it was, shh, quiet down over there. So they gave her the IV, and then when they got called in, they were told it could be another 6 hours. So imagine sitting there in emergency, you're pregnant, you're stressed out, and you got to wait there for 14 hours just so that way somebody can see you and do your blood work and make sure that a pregnant woman is okay. Yeah. Like that's so messed up.
It is. It's gotten worse over the years. Year after year, it keeps getting worse and worse. You know, it's like I remember growing up as a kid. You know, you waited 2 hours, 3 hours. Never waited more than 2-3 hours.
Never as bad.
And you didn't see people in the hallways. They had people in their rooms. Like, think about it, Brampton.
Yeah.
we got almost 800,000 people here in Brampton.
The sign says 670,000 when you're coming in. I don't know how accurate.
According to Patrick Brown, when we were at that, remember they were doing that coffee clutch thing that they were where
what's that?
He was going around to all the different bakeries, and he wanted to hear concerns from the local residents.
Yeah, and then block you on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm blocking on Twitter. Yeah,
that was me.
Yeah. but yeah, like. So yeah, he basically was claiming with the immigration, everybody coming into Canada, and Brampton seems to be one of the like focal points where everybody's coming to, right?
So we're right next to the airport,
right?
Yeah,
and like you have houses beside me have 20 people living in it. This is like a 1,500 square foot home. It's a semi 3-bedroom, not designed for 20 people, let alone 6 people. And you got 20 people living in these houses. I don't blame the people who are living in the houses.
No. I mean, if it were me, so we got a lot of Indian people coming, just for context purposes, but a lot of people from India come to Canada to live. And if it were me, I would do the same thing. If somebody's telling you to come, why wouldn't you come? Why would you stay in a place like India? No offense, India, but your country's got a lot of problems, especially like pollution problems, right?
And poverty too, right?
Yeah, so major poverty.
So they're coming here like looking for a better place, and I get that. Like my parents, your grandparents, everybody, we're all immigrants ourselves, right? My background's Greek. My grandfather, my father, they all came as immigrants. Like they came for a better life, a better job. But it's just like you come here and then all of a sudden you're like, you can't find any place to live. And the only place you can live where you're paying like $600-700 for a 1-bedroom. That's and these landlords, they're taking advantage of this, but the city's not doing very much about it. They're not treating it as a rooming house. They're more like they're treating it like business, like, oh, it's okay, we're having a problem, and I've called the 311, and that's what we've gotten. My wife has called, I've called, like saying, hey,
your neighbors.
Yeah, the neighbors. It's not so much about the neighbors itself; it's about the owners of the properties, right? Because they got like 9-10 cars each house.
All over the streets.
And they're all over the streets, blocking the roads. Like, especially now, even today, I was just leaving my house before I came here. There were like 7 cars on the road. The plow couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So
that's okay. Just plow the cars in.
Yeah,
just block them.
Block
turn it into a big pile of snow. The guy comes out. Oh my God! Happened? I can't even get into my car because there's so much snow. I've seen that so many times. It's actually like really funny. But yeah, the one thing I hate about these the glass balls, I find like the actual glass in the ball, it's too thick.
It's maybe a little bit thick. Yeah,
like it doesn't actually cool it down as much as I would like.
It's still nice and smooth. Though.
It is.
I'm telling you right now. It's really good. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, Eagle Rare. It's definitely one of the best go-tos. I got a whole bunch of other ones, but we'll try those another day.
Definitely when I go down to Florida, I'm going to be buying a bottle myself, bringing back a bottle.
This bottle in particular is really hard to find.
It's hard to find.
So it says rare on it for a reason.
Yeah,
because it's
rare.
Extremely rare.
I'll still look, see whatever.
Yeah. The odd liquor store, sometimes you will find like 1, maybe 2 bottles.
Yeah.
So normally you'll find them between 60 and 70 US. I think this bottle I paid 70.
That's not bad.
But that was in Connecticut. Everything's expensive in Connecticut. And then people tell me that sometimes you can find them in the grocery stores when they first get their deliveries. Yeah, you can find them for like less than 40.
Less than 40. That's not bad.
But I got some other ones over there that are like 120, 140. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go right through Kentucky when I'm going down. Like
there you go.
Down Pittsburgh. No, does it go through Kentucky?
No, you're going. No, that would be the other route. Yeah, so you would go from Toronto, Buffalo, Pittsburgh,
and
then
down
you'd
to
go
Virginia,
through West Virginia, and then North Carolina, South Carolina, and then Georgia and Florida.
Yeah, so I'll kind of check when I'm going down that way. Yeah. But coming home, maybe I'll take up the 75 and just go through, do the
if you want to do the little detour.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't mind the drive.
Yeah, if you end up in Lexington is where you'll likely find tons of great stuff like that. Let me know if you do. I'll maybe get me one too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But if you get
Ethanol doesn't drink, so
but the only thing is when you get to the border, oh man, they're gonna ruin you. Yeah.
Why?
It's expensive. You know how much they charge?
Well,
customs?
you're allowed a bottle. No, you're allowed a bottle a person.
One bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one for you, one for Antonella. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't worry, I can buy you.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Yeah. Well, if you happen to find two, sure, I'll take another one.
Yeah,
I'm always looking for, especially that one.
Yeah, that's
that
good.
one
Eagle
for
Rare.
sure.
Eagle Rare, yeah.
The Blanton's is pretty good too, but it's more just like a fancy bottle
It's more
with a little horse on top. The Eagle Rare is definitely better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's definitely nice. That's definitely a nice bourbon.
Oh yeah. I mean, Crown Royal can eat shit basically.
You know what? It's actually funny because, being in the restaurant, the bar business all these years, growing up, I'd say over 45 years. I added an extra 5-6 years on it because I was a minor, like I was like 9, 10, 11.
Child slavery.
Yeah, I was child slavery. That's what it was back then. I used to work for basically nothing for my parents. But,
I did it too.
Yeah, but I've been around the restaurants and the bars for so many years. It was always whiskeys, always this, never bourbons. Yeah. But now in the last 10 years
it's become very popular.
And you know what? It's for a reason. It's much better.
Yeah,
it's much better than most whiskeys, even Scotch. Like I mean, like I've tried.
Scotch is a different flavor.
Yeah. But still, like people are getting more into the bourbons. I find than like you have your cognacs. And cognac is different and different things like that. So
it's the special like flavor to it. There's nothing quite like it. Right?
Yeah,
there's nothing I've ever found really in Canada that even compares to what the bourbon whiskeys that you can get in the United States. Maybe there's a couple here and there, but I can't even, off the top of my head, I can't even think of one that's like, that's a good Canadian whiskey. To me, it just doesn't exist.
The only thing that I can say that for whiskey, I've never been a real big whiskey drinker. I've always been more rum. And as far as whiskeys go, the only real whiskey that I've always been okay with is Weiser's Deluxe.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's not a
Weiser's
bourbon.
not Canadian though.
Weiser's Deluxe? I'm not sure. I think it is. It's a rye whiskey.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a second.
You have a bottle?
That's Maker's Mark.
That's Maker's Mark. Yeah. No,
I'm pretty sure it's American. I don't think.
Is it American?
I don't think Weiser's is Canadian.
Because maybe you're right. Cause
I think basically just Crown Royal.
Well, anything that says rye is a Canadian.
No.
Mostly, yeah.
No.
Ryes are, that's how, yeah.
No, because they make ryes in the U.S.
Do they make ryes in the U.S.? They started making ryes? Okay.
Yeah. There's a place, it's near Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I met the lady, so I go to a cigar shop, Just the Tip Cigars, shout out for Sam.
Yeah.
So I buy all my cigars from there, and they have a close connection to the local distillery, which is known as Liberty Pole. They make regular whiskey, they make rye, a couple other different things, and they also make bourbon cream, which is extremely difficult to make because it's very dirty to make, so to say. But oh my god, it's so good. You can mix it with, if you ever go back to Pittsburgh, go to Liberty Pole or maybe a nearby liquor store and you'll probably find it. Or when I go, I'll probably buy one myself. Mix it with ice and root beer, and it's like a root beer bourbon cream float, and it's the most amazing thing ever. Yeah. So I met them, and I know for a fact she makes ryes because she brings them. She brings a bunch of bottles to the cigar shop because what goes best with a cigar is bourbon or whiskey.
So they're they're like their own shop, like they're making their own,
and everything
like
is
more like a small local, like a local thing, right?
Yeah, and they're very young whiskeys, so they're not as like good as this. Yeah, but for a 2-3-year-old aged whiskey, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You could be right because. Like when the stuff I'm more or less talking about is like it's always been like more of the old school because whiskeys were like bourbons were known as American, rye was known as Canadian, and like Scotch whiskey was Scottish and like so kind of like that's
Irish whiskey.
Then you have Irish whiskeys, and so like that's kind of more where I was coming from because from past, and you know what, a lot of things have changed now, the way that they're doing things today. So
like now everything's like so particular, like with the flavor notes, and this one has like a apple crisp, like I have one there, it's so expensive, not my favorite, good, but definitely not my favorite, but it's like got that apple crisp note to it.
But it's nice though, because you're starting to see these little smaller distilleries making their own, which is kind of like, I like better, like it's giving you more like a variety, like more of a like like you travel because we're both people like to drive.
Yeah.
Right. Like like you've been all over. You've driven probably more than I have.
I've been across the continent.
Yeah.
Probably about 4 times since July.
Yeah, I know.
We went to Newfoundland first.
Yeah.
And then came back. And then I went to West Coast, Canada, all the way to BC. Came back, and then basically went to Vegas, California.
Yeah.
Came back, and then now I just went BC and came back, and now I'm here for a little while anyway. So we'll see. I kind of want to try some different stuff locally, and then do some more traveling afterwards.
Yeah, because you know what, like you said, I'd rather drive somewhere than fly.
You see more.
Yeah, you get to see the people, you see the towns.
You stop in these little random places.
Yeah. You won't get that like by flying. When people fly to resorts, like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to the Dominican. You don't actually experience the culture. Yeah, you know, all you're doing is you're flying to the airport of that country. You're taking a bus
or taxi
to that resort, and you stay on the resort unless you take an excursion, and that's it.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, it's okay, I guess, once in a while, but when you get out there and you try the different places, you try the different food, you see the area, like
in Cuba, you cannot eat the food on the resort. It's usually awful.
Oh, so it is horrible.
If you leave the resort, I don't know about now because I haven't been in years, and apparently Cuba's in having a lot of problems.
They're having a lot of problems. I've been seeing a lot of that right now.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too. My dad was supposed to go. They have it booked, him and a few of their friends, and I think he's like ready to cancel. Like I don't think they're going anymore.
Well, I think our friend Paul went there from the bakery.
Okay.
Yeah. Because he said he was going. I don't know. I think now, but I haven't seen him for a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, there was that other guy who recently went too. I don't remember what his name was, but
is his wife Polish or something like that? I think because it's the same guy. I think we're talking about. I think we're talking about the same guy. He comes at the bakery, right?
Yeah.
There's the one guy. He travels a lot. He does Dominican. He does Cuba and all the other ones. Yeah. I kind of told him. I said, you know what? From what I'm seeing, like there's a lot of power outages and everything else. It's not really the best. Yeah.
Apparently they're running out of water, so the locals just drink beer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad, but I mean, the problem is you're drunk and kind of dehydrated all the time. Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, they're Cubans. I'm sure they can handle it.
Yeah, I think so.
So we're gonna change gears in a few moments here and do another segment. But before that, I'm gonna pull this up on the screen just because this is hilarious. So this was probably one of the best takes on Titanic that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Let me open this, make it bigger, so we can see the whole thing.
It's Rose.
It's Rose, yeah. So growing up is understanding that in Titanic, Rose decides to throw away a $250 million pendant in memory of an unemployed man who she had sex with one time. Meanwhile, her husband worked hard all his life to maintain her and give her and her children a life of luxury, who would surely have also appreciated the inheritance and lived peacefully. She could have also given the pendant to her granddaughter, who took care of her whole life. The real villain of the movie, gentlemen, no doubt, it was Rose. I've seen Titanic probably about 1 billion times.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot.
I think when it came out, my mom took me to see it probably like 4 or 5 times just in theater. And then of course it came out on the double VHS box set. So we had to buy. I think I still have it actually somewhere.
Oh, geez.
But
do you have a video? Do you have a VCR to play it in?
I think we do. Yeah, I think my grandmother still has one. It's like the only thing we could ever find was a DVD VHS combo because she used to record her TV shows, right? And then she would play them
afterwards.
And she doesn't know how to use DVDs or PVRs and stuff like that, right? So she's older. But growing up, when watching Titanic, you kind of always felt that they tried to portray Rose and Jack as like so innocent but then you kind of grow up and then you start rewatching it again and you start to realize that Rose is kind of just a bitch. Right? First of all, the fact that she threw it, so she's on this ship that they know these guys have spent, they've dedicated their entire lives to trying to find this fucking jewel of the ocean. And then at the end of the movie, she had it the entire time. So it's like these guys designated their entire life. They spent millions upon millions of dollars to go down to the Titanic and try and find this fucking jewel. And she had it. And what does she do with it? She throws it over the edge and then goes, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the alternate version?
No,
There's an alternate ending.
No, I have not.
It's the cheesiest thing because they actually find her about to I guess she stood up on the back of the ship or whatever, and they come running out. It's the cheesiest thing. If you guys ever have a chance, go and find the alternate ending of Titanic because it is literally the funniest thing.
Now
ever.
that you mentioned, I have to do it. I have to go check it out.
Watch
I have to
to
see that.
It's hilarious. I can't play because of copyright, but it was really, really funny. But yeah, just kind of thinking about that,
that'd be cool.
and not only that, but there was enough room on the door.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for Jack.
Oh
right?
yeah, I think he could have got on there.
Yeah, you didn't have to freeze to death.
No.
Yeah, they could have gotten on top of each other. It would have been even better because they would have warmed each other up.
They didn't want to ruin the plot. So
I guess. And then it's I'll never let you go, and then immediately lets go, and he just floats away, never to be seen ever again. What a funny movie.
Yeah.
But it's kind of true. I mean, Hal was kind of a dick too. But
he was. But listen, what are you gonna do if somebody's trying to steal your girlfriend or your fiance?
Yeah.
You're gonna get kind of pissed off.
It was pretty obvious what was going on right from the beginning. That he was he had an eye for this girl, and she was kind of being snide about it. But you could tell that she wanted him essentially. But it's true. All this for a guy you had sex with one time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, oh my god, the ending always pissed me off though. And then what?
Yeah.
So what's implied when she when she's sleeping? Does she die? Because it never says that.
No, it doesn't say it. But
I always kind of wanted to know what was the ending? Did she die in her sleep on the ship? Is that what happened? Was she on the ship?
She was on the ship. Yeah, she was on the ship, and then after that, if I remember, didn't she lay down? And that's the end of it.
Pretty much, yeah. It just panned across her sleeping, and then
the whole song,
pretty
the whole
much
music.
it, right? But yeah, I mean that bitch could have paid for the whole thing. Well, just hand over the jewel.
Well, think of it this way: how much did they cost her to fly her there?
Right.
They flew her into the ship to hear the whole story,
and she had it the entire time.
Yeah.
Wow, unbelievable.
The heart of the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, I still love the movie, but I think it's more just because of the historical context to it.
Yeah.
Because I've always just been fascinated.
Well, there's nothing realistic about that at all, the way it went down. There's nothing.
In the movie?
Yeah.
No.
There's not much historical fact about that, so.
What do you mean?
Well, the whole thing about Rose in the story
you mean their story? Their story was
fictional. The whole fictional thing.
Although in the Titanic cemetery there is a grave marked J. Dawson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's in Halifax. But apparently the J stands for Joseph.
Joseph. Okay.
Yeah, not Jack. So I mean, who knows?
Well, the writers, the way they can probably just say, "Hey, Joseph, okay, his name is Jack."
Yeah.
Let's make a little story.
No, but I think Joseph Dawson worked on the ship, though.
Okay,
I believe that's what I recall reading, because I remember I clickbaited this short video on YouTube because my friends live in Halifax, so we went to the Halifax cemetery. We went to the museum. They have a bunch of cool shit from there.
Now, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
What do you think about what they say about the Titanic isn't the real Titanic that went down?
I don't know. Supposedly it's been debunked, but I've always been kind of fascinated by the story.
Yeah,
but
it's just interesting. That's all.
It's plausible.
Listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's just something that you think about.
Where's your tinfoil hat?
Yeah, I don't know. I left it in the car.
Shit.
It's in the car. Let me go get it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, with everything that's happened in the world, everything over the last few years that were supposedly conspiracy theories that have now turned into reality, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's totally plausible.
You don't know what's going to happen, what's really happening.
Yeah.
You don't know.
But I mean, it does kind of make sense that it may have actually happened because, I mean, there was a bunch of things that people pointed out. The original sister ship was already damaged, so it's why not sink the thing? Just switch
for insurance.
the nameplates.
For insurance purposes. That was the whole thing.
Supposedly,
was it Britannica was the Britannica.
I believe so. Yeah. The SS Britannica was the sister. Was it that one? There was 3 of them.
Yeah.
But the first one, and then the Titanic was the second one that I believe was built just slightly bigger.
Just,
So it's considered the biggest ship in the ocean. But yeah, what a crazy, wild conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's plausible. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, people have tried to point it out that, oh, well, look at what happened. And then this is what supposedly people on the ship heard. And then Rockefeller canceled his trip at the very last second, claiming he was ill when he was in fact perfectly fine with his mistress somewhere else. And it's like,
well, there are other reasons why he probably wanted to stay there. He's with his mistress.
Yeah. But he also he was supposed to transport a bunch of artifacts, and supposedly all the artifacts were pulled off the ship at the last second.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. Supposedly.
If he was on that ship at that time, he would have been the richest man on the ship.
Oh, for sure.
Because
he could have owned the ship.
Yeah. Well, at the time he was. What was it? I remember reading at the time he was worth something around the lines of like $19 billion in 1902 or 03 or something like that. So like that
would have been like trillions today.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, like with what he owned in the oil industry, he'd be like, it's astronomical, like to figure it out, right?
Well, I mean, the Rockefellers were like savages. They basically like owned everything. Yeah, right? There's like they literally owned the government basically at that point. Yeah.
Well, in a way they still do. Yeah, believe it or not. Like,
they're still heavily involved. Yeah,
I didn't see the article myself, but I've heard the story about John D. Rockefeller when he was asked a question about the education system. Because it's supposedly the way the American system is set up, and it's basically not just in the U.S. now, it's in Canada, all around the world, where people are taught to be workers, to follow a system,
to be slaves,
basically
slaves to the system.
Yeah, and that's what John D. Rockefeller.
I mean, most schools growing up always taught you how to kind of, you would do these business courses in high school that I remember. And majority of all the courses throughout high school essentially taught you how to be an employee. Not to be the employer, but the employee.
Or be an investor, or like how to do your finances, how to,
Yeah, none of that shit ever really existed. I was fortunate in my school that we did have the entrepreneurship course. Yeah. That was a thing. But I know a lot of other schools didn't do that.
Yeah, right? Not so many. There wasn't a lot of them, but there were a few. Like when I went to school, like we had an entrepreneur course. Yeah. But it was very like
basic.
Very basic, and I'd say in the whole school, like there was almost 1,800 students in that school at the time, and I'd say there were only 30 of us in the class. Like, and one teacher taught it, and that was it. Yeah. So it wasn't a big thing. It was really, really, really small. Right. But people are entrepreneurial. Like there's naturally, yeah.
Think idea thing. We think up ideas, and then we're just like, I'm gonna try that out.
Exactly. Right? Like it's kind of like what I'm doing with the olive oil. It's kind of going back a little bit. But
exactly. It's not really being done on like a large scale, right? I mean, some people do have import olive oils, but it's not like on a massive scale.
Yeah. Right? Well, it's basically, I see a problem. Like actually, Mark Cuban, he actually says this. Okay. He's actually said it. I've heard him say that what you got to do is you look for a problem and you create the solution. That's how you build your business around that problem, and you'll be successful. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Yeah. I seen a problem. Okay. I see like I need a high quality olive oil at a reasonable price, not outrageous, and in the communities where people want quality olive oil. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm solving that problem. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another problem out there. Yeah. Maple syrup.
Oh,
especially the fake stuff in the stores. What's the one that's it was Aunt Jemima, now it's Horning Mills? Is that what it's called?
It's called Pearl Mills.
I don't know why I said. Horning Mills, I think is a place.
But I don't know if it's true. I saw it on Facebook.
They need to bring it back.
They said somebody said there was a picture of Aunt Jemima on the thing, and says General Mills has caved and are bringing back Aunt Jemima.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if it's true. If it's somebody put a fake thing. But
probably, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, but I mean, like Aunt Jemima was like when you were young, how old are you now?
I'm 56 now.
Damn, you're old as fuck.
Yeah, I know. Thanks,
I'm just joking. But like you growing up, was Aunt Jemima
It was
a thing?
always Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, it was always Aunt Jemima.
And nobody thought anything, like it wasn't a race thing.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, that's Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, like you knew who Aunt Jemima was.
That was
she was probably the most famous black woman in the world.
Yeah.
Next
it was
to
like,
maybe Oprah Winfrey or something.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Pretty much, yeah. But when you say Aunt Jemima, you're like, hey, that's the one I want.
Yeah. It's iconic.
It's iconic. Yeah, it's exactly.
So it's like, didn't they figuratively like destroy or literally destroy their business just because they thought it was racist to have this black woman who supposedly was a slave, which is not, I don't even think that's a real thing. I don't think that was, I think somebody made that up. And they were getting a bunch of heat for
Aunt Jemima
it.
itself was made up, from what I hear, from what I understand.
Well, yeah, she's a fictional character. She's not a real.
Yeah, she wasn't
person.
a real person. Just I don't know about Uncle Ben though. Like that was another story. Like there's another one because the Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
You don't see his picture anywhere anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
It's no longer Uncle Ben's
so
anymore.
I don't understand why. So like you're anti-racist, and this is like something that bugs me. And we'll get into more politics in the next segment. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but it's just funny to me that it's like you claim to be these anti-racist people, and then your idea, I got an idea of how to not be racist. Let's be racist and take out two of the most iconic, even though they're fictional, figures of Black culture and American history.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
like it's the stupidest thing ever. Like it doesn't even make sense.
No, it makes none whatsoever.
Yeah. Not that anything's really making sense much days, or anymore, realistically. But we'll be right back with the next segment. It's going to be a completely separate video because how we're kind of breaking these down now is I'm doing like a bunch of separate videos, 30, 40-minute segments each. I think they just make more sense because some people are more interested in the conversation and not so much the politics. I kind of want to do both. So we're going to break it down. If there's an episode that's about politics and you're not interested, feel free to skip it or watch segments of it, whatever you want to do. But yeah, if you guys just want the conversation, then you can watch these ones and then skip the next one. But yeah, that's kind of how it's going to go.